Ladies and gentlemen, it is November 25th. Millions of Americans have
Black Friday.
slaughtered turkeys and eaten them, and it was delicious. Today, though, we're back for episode 12 of Game Bites. Alex, how you doing, sir?
I am full of food. How are you?
How full? What did you do for Thanksgiving this year?
Ate Thanksgiving food.
That's
and
it?
played Pokemon. Yeah. What's your questions?
It was just the three of you at home?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I live on the West Coast and no families out here.
Well, you shouldn't have moved, but at least you got a wife out of it.
Yeah. West Coast, am I right?
Honestly, you probably would have did something. No, you would have been with your family if you were still around. But I feel like, but before you left, we were we were hanging out often. You know,
yeah, I stopped over your place because it was on the way to work or on the way back from work, and watched your dog a lot of those times lined up with that. So yeah, we were around each other a lot. Always Christmas parties I came over, and you always promised eggnog, and it never happened. It just never happened.
Well, I like to let people down. Well, my philosophy is set low expectations and then just slightly deliver above it. It's worked miracles for my wife and I. But with you, it was different. I just wanted to let you down.
Constantly disappoint, but always distract me from the disappointments.
Yeah,
very quickly.
That's there's no eggnog here.
And then it comes up 4 years later that I still remember no eggnog.
Maybe you'll get some this year if you come home. That being said, our Thanksgiving, I managed to go over for about an hour to my in-laws. There was everyone was in town. Typically Thanksgiving we go to the city of Pittsburgh on Thursday to be with my family, and then we have Thanksgiving with my in-laws on Friday. And it's like a tradition we kind of started since all these family traditions. But this year, since I had the surgery and I now have working legs, I am kidding.
Did everyone just come over and speed bag you real quick?
No, my God. Oh no. This year the agreement was, hey, we're not traveling. We're just gonna do Thursday at at the in-laws. And my mother-in-law, I said, she's like, it's so nice to have everyone here on the actual Thanksgiving day. And I was like, you're welcome. Yeah. It's like, you're welcome. So it was nice. I ate a bunch of food and I feel like garbage now, but it is what it is. So yeah. But honestly, I don't think I could have picked a better time to get cut open, because last Thursday we didn't have an episode of Game Bites this Friday. Last Thursday I had surgery, and then Friday Pokemon comes out, and it's been quite the ride. Now I want to get into the game itself, but let's talk about the news a bit around it. So I don't know if you've been paying attention to any of the reviews, but I'm sure you were aware of a lot of the conversation online and differing opinions. So let me just stop there and say, what's kind of your first take on how things started to happen on last Friday, what people were saying about the game, and then kind of where you land with your experience with the game so far?
Yeah, so it's kind of the same thing. I think it's just expectations. There was a lot of leaked copies, or a lot of people got the game or pirated the game before it came out, and everyone was bashing it for technical issues. And then all the review embargo was lifted, and everyone said the game's good. There's a lot of technical issues, and they just started listing them. So when my copy was downloaded and when I started playing it, I was expecting an absolute mess. And then, I played all the way through it. I did not run into a lot of the issues that people were saying they did, and I know every game's different. You have gone over one thing that you saw. I still have never seen that.
Which one's that?
You said as you were approaching a hill, it looked like a fish lens, the hill warped.
Yeah.
I've never seen that, but so I know everyone's seeing something different. But I've beat the game. I'm what's the number there? I'm about 60% done with the filling the Pokédex, and that's been 5 days. But I've put a lot of time towards it. But I saw some people saying there was a memory leak. Pretty much the longer you go on in the game, the more laggy and shuttery it gets. And just learning that, I just have been mindful about shutting off my game every 4 hours, which sounds ridiculous because why am I having to go 4 hours in a row and have to shut it off? But I sit there for a long time and play this game. So like I've been mindful of that, and so like I maybe because of that I haven't seen many issues. But I had a better time with this game than I did with Sword and Shield. I would argue that I had a better time with Arceus just because there's a lot of novelty in that one. But now, like, once that novelty kind of wore off and I realized what this game has to offer compared to the other ones, now I like this one way more. But technical issues, I would say, I think I've had other games that were buggier than this for me, you know?
Yeah. So I obviously wasn't paying attention to the news. I heard some chatter in the Discords and been like, oh my gosh, people were saying this or that. And in general, I think the first thing I would say is there appeared to be a larger defense of Pokemon than any other game that comes out with these types of issues. Because what I would say is, out of any Pokemon game I've personally ever played, it presents the most noticeable type of glitches from a user experience perspective, specifically frame rate, just the choppiness, the frame rate. I mean, like those moments in the classroom where people were like, they're like doing the robot. It's funny. And I would say it comes down to this. One, Game Freak doesn't necessarily make games like this. And this is a kind of a big growth goal for them. Not only is it fully open world, but it's a fully fleshed out 3D world. There's other games like this on the Switch that look better and play better, but this is Game Freak. This is their bread and butter is making a fun Pokemon game. And to me, I think that's what it comes down to is like the game's still a lot of fun. It's still very feature rich. And I think when we talk about games, we have to remember that games aren't, this is something I saw from Twitter, a guy named Gene Park. They're not a Tesla. They're not a car. They're not a, they're not a sequel. They're not some type of technological product. They're meant to be fun. And even with all these glitches, like you mentioned ones I don't have, I've mentioned ones you don't have, I don't even really notice the ones I'm experiencing because like the game's just extremely fun. Mm-hmm. But it is the buggiest Pokemon game I've played personally. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. So I say all of that, and then like Gotham Knights got so much heat for 30 frames per second, but you came out on this show and you're like, the game's just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And like think about how we react to things. Like I don't know, like Pokemon's such a juggernaut of a property. You mentioned Legends. Legends sold, as of September 2022, 13.91 million units.
Oh, that's total right now.
Yeah.
Arceus.
Wow. Scarlet and Violet. Yeah.
Wow.
10 million units in 3 days.
Yeah. I didn't know that about Arceus. I thought that one, because of it's like, this is what everyone was finally waiting for, like you can go out in the wild and just sneak up on them and catch them. That's crazy. Just 13. Huh.
Yeah.
It could have been at the time, same thing. People were like, here's a game that was released 10 years ago, and here's a game that's released in what, 2000? Was that earlier this year? Was that 2022?
That was 2022, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was just in January. Yeah. You got a company, or Game Freak, that's been making some top-down pixel games for how many years now, and then they're trying to do open world 3D in different environments and going up against, companies have been doing that for decades. Yeah. Different types of quality, but if you want Pokemon, you have to play Pokemon, so.
Yeah, and to that point, I had a lot of fun with Sword and Shield. And when I look back at Sword and Shield, in a lot of ways, it's more constrained with how grand its vision is. It's still very much traditional in ways, but you can see the Pokemon. It plays better, too, because of that, right? It's not as navigating all the other mechanics.
Technically, it's more small scale in aspirations of what I was trying to accomplish, yeah.
But it was still a lot of fun. I will play, I'll pick this game up, and I'll play for like an hour and a half. And it's like, I get to a new area, and there's like 7 new type of Pokemon. And I just catch them all. Like, I don't historically play that way. Like, just the transitions between battles and catching Pokemon. Like, there's so many quality of life features that they put into this game, on top of it being fully open world, on top of you getting to choose your own direction. What do you want to go gyms? Do you want to do the Titans? Do you want to do the Team Star? All that stuff. That it's a lot of fun. In some sense, it's Starfall. in some sense, it's almost overwhelming at times. I'm like, there's just so much. I've already put like almost 20 hours in this game, and I'm here. I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I liked about it was, yeah, they said you can go east or west. We don't care. Depends on what you want to do, and then it doesn't really matter. I never accidentally wandered into an area where I was severely under leveled. It just so happens the route I took, like I was already over farming other areas and with experience and everything. So, the Titans thing was like that storyline was more interesting to me. So I finished that first just because the traversal mechanics are locked behind the Titan quests. So I wanted to get those all out of the way so the traversal was not impeded at all. Then I went through the gyms, and then once I beat the gyms and the champion, or not the Elite Four. No, I think the Elite Four. And then I was like, what else do I got to do? And I was like, oh, there's still 2 more Team Star things. I guess I got to go do that. And then I was allowed to do like the final end game stuff.
Oh. I mean, I
know that's why I didn't specify anything, but yeah, it's even after you have to finish all of that just to go to another part that's like another 5 to 10 hours plus.
Oh wow, jeez, yeah. I mean, this game's jam packed. So yeah, I tend to ignore people's Twitter takes, and there's a lot of clout grabbing when people try to complain about one specific thing. Like with Gotham Knights, people looked at the water in Gotham Knights and compared it to.
I'm not playing Gotham Knights to look at water.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay. And I don't know. Again, so I bring that up too because I think of like a game like Cyberpunk, which Cyberpunk was criticized a lot for its technological issues. And Cyberpunk had to issue refunds, and that's also in the news this week. Some people are getting refunds from Nintendo because of they don't feel like the game's polished enough. And Nintendo, it's weird. Some people are saying they're having success, and some people are saying they're not having success getting these refunds. But the perception is very different right now. And I don't know like what it is
compared to Cyberpunk, or just the perception of the people. Like that's split.
Cyberpunk as an example, but other games that have been hit hard for the quality issues, because like Scarlet and Violet are getting reviewed at 6 right now. They're saying this is some of the most feature-rich Pokemon game that has come around in a long time, but the quality of it is just really bad. And some people are really bringing the score down for it, and some people are saying you can ignore that. And a 6 is a low score for a Pokemon game. But at the end of the day, like there's just something about the idea of that Pokemon's a fun game. We like this. It's a franchise we know. People are gonna buy it, and like 10 million copies. That's incredibly high. Like this is gonna move switches. This is just holiday season starting today, really. From people go out. It's kind of crazy. Like this game might be the best selling Pokemon game of all time, and by the end of it.
So if you're a game freak and you're some game designer or producer and you're thinking, do we have to release the polished game? Doesn't look like it, but that's the sad part.
There's that's one take you could definitely say, right? Is what happens next. Well, one, I would say, and this is something I heard online as well, I think this theory makes sense. Since the user base is already huge, they're gonna release DLC. We know that. And when you can commit to new DLC, you can commit your dev operations to working on all this polishing that happened, right? So
there wasn't DLC for Arceus, which I was surprised.
Yeah. Again, that's sold so little in the grand scheme of things, which surprises me too. But Sword and Shield DLC I love. In fact, that's some of the stuff that still makes me go back to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're going to get DLC. So internally, they're saying we're going to commit our DevOps to working on the game more. It could go both ways, like, right? It could be like, hey, we don't need to better this one, right? We can just better the next one. We're learning. People are happy with this either way. Or they could patch it. And I think you're going to see patches. I think this game's going to get a long-term support line because it just seems like it has a lot of potential. But
I think the last 5 to 10 minutes of everything you just said could have been said after Sword and Shield, could have been said after Arceus, and it's after this. But like now we're 3 games into, they could like do better, and they're consistently just not. But I think with the technical issues of this one now like if they're wanting doing a cost benefit analysis on how far can we push this trust and reliability of our fans? Like now I'm teetering on next one. I'm going to just wait. Like I'm going to see how far the technical issues are, and I'm not going to give them my money if up front they're just going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. And I will say this is probably like a linchpin type of moment for them where like this could go both ways, even though there's a lot of success. What's that face?
It's just like, I just feel like everything was said after Sword and Shield. Like that was a linchpin, like it was, and Arceus, the game quality compared to, I mean, what you're saying, I just feel like can be said after every Pokemon game. You're going to be saying it after the next one. Yeah. What are the chances that you won't be saying that again after the next Pokemon game,
So I guess let me ask you this, because I didn't play a lot of the 3DS game, right? And Sword and Shield, to me, while it wasn't as visionary as people wanted it to be, like I feel like a common complaint is like they want Pokemon to be less, they want it to be like more Unreal 5. Like I want my Venusaur to be like a frog I could eat, where I feel like Pokemon is always going to stay with that cartoony aesthetic. To me, this game, and I noticed it in Legends, honestly. Legends was hiccupy for sure. But it seems like the art direction aside, like I don't feel like I've played a Pokemon game that had as much of a buggy user experience aspect to it. Like I know there's been issues in the back ends of the game.
You're right. No, this one is the one that had the biggest technical stuff, but like I meant more like the structure of the game, like pop in and draw distance and that kind of stuff was something that was still in Sword and Shield, definitely in Arceus, and it's still in this game too. I gave it a little bit of leeway in this one because I felt the pop in was literally the randomized spawn chance, and you can't have 400 Pokemon spawned on your screen. It was like every 20 or 30 meters, and if you turned around, here's some more, like the 15% chance that a Tyranitar will appear. If you keep looking around, it's going to keep refreshing the spawns. So like in this game, it made more sense, but like those are technical issues in the previous games still.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying gets to the point that, like, quite frankly, Game Freak doesn't have the internal capabilities on a large enough scale to help them solve some of these questions at the moment. And just knowing how Nintendo works, I don't think they're gonna rapidly change the organization in the snap of a finger to take care of it. I think if they are, they're probably already working on it, I would guess, but it just takes time to get there. And so you might not see improvements until next generation. But you're still going to see like, again, like Nintendo gets criticized still for their lack of, why isn't the online play like Microsoft or PlayStation, right? Which I just think they don't care. They're like, is the game fun? And or kids and family going to enjoy this game? And that's their main metric. And at the end of the day, I do still think this game delivers on that again.
I agree.
So it's an interesting thing. Yeah, 10 million copies. Like,
yeah,
God,
I would not have expected that, especially with all the reviews and the low reviews. And if anyone read those, they've been like, well, maybe I don't have to buy this right now because this is a buggy mess. I'll wait for them to fix it. No, 10 million people.
Greg texted me.
Fine, it's the next game.
I think Greg texted me on Saturday, Greg, and he was like, hey, are you getting a new Pokemon? I've read all this stuff on Reddit. And I was just like, honestly, Alex and I talked about it. We're having a lot of fun, and I think you would too. He's like, all right. And then like 5 hours later, he's like, I got it. And he's sending me some ridiculously funny glitches that he's seen on Reddit. So
he's running into stuff. Wow.
Oh, well, I think this is something he's seen on Reddit. But like, again, frame rate's the biggest thing for me. Yeah, what I would love to see is someone like Monolith, who's made the Xenoblade games for the Switch. And we talked about this on the phone. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, gorgeous game on the Switch. It doesn't look like it's a Switch game at all. I always do like a double take.
Does Xenoblade have overworld enemies?
It's open world. Yeah, it's open world. It's
no, the open world. Can you see the enemy and run over there to it?
Yeah, I don't know what the
it's
open world. It's open world. Yeah, it's what you're saying. Like the enemies are on the map, right?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And so
they're doing something right.
Exactly.
And with that fidelity. Yeah.
Yeah, and so this is a company that can learn, and Nintendo's not against getting support from third-party publishers. Like Bandai's helped out a lot with Smash Brothers and other games. I think Bandai's helping out with Metroid Prime that they're working on. So, yeah, I don't know. Like,
they need manpower and knowledge. Someone to come in there and restructure these from the back end and add all the gameplay and everything on top of it. Because you could have very cheesy, very simple art design like they have been doing. Although this game, like every Pokemon has like interesting textures on it. It's not fur, but it's texture to it, and it adds a little bit more life to these Pokemon. But everything is so simple. You just need someone to come in there and polish the back end so that everything runs great, you know? And that's just not something they prioritize just getting something functioning out the door that looks good and is fun and will draw you in for 30 to 40 hours in a week. But the polish is not there. And that's obviously, there's 10 million reasons why the polish was okay to not really prioritize.
Yeah. That is the one thing I would love to have been a fly on the wall in these conversations internally, because there had to have been some, people like, let's do it. This is what we always do. And there had to be some people against it. And I would be curious to hear what those arguments look like.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I'm having a ton of fun with this game. It's the game I am playing the most at the moment. And like I said, I could care less about those performance issues. And if they fixed them, I'd be like, that's great. I'm happy.
I just want to advertise. I have this thing pulling my shoulder and stuff just so no one's... That's what's distracted me off screen. Just playing tug of war with me. Sorry.
That's funny. You're good.
Yeah, it just looks weird. I'm going like, but she's just playing with this.
All good. All good. I'm distracted by that Naruto Frieza in the background.
Dude, I got this whole wall up here of them.
Oh, wow. Did you make those?
Yeah, they're parlors.
Okay. Very cool. Now, so let me ask you this real quick. You've played, I think, every Pokemon, right? Every gen.
Every generation, one game from every generation, yes. Until recently, I recently bought both versions for the older 3DS games.
So what would be your top 5, real quick?
I liked... Sapphire was my favorite one. Okay. I just liked everything about it. Soul Silver, Sapphire. If I had to go back and if I only had to take 5 games with me to an island and that's all I had, I'd probably take Violet and Arceus. What's another? I think X. Yeah.
X. Okay. X. Okay. I've never played X or Y. I've never played Sun and Moon. Never played Black or White or Black and White 2.
Yeah, I've heard all this. Yeah.
So for me though, what I've played, I never played the Soul Silver Gold editions, but I want to. Those are just ridiculously expensive now. I started playing Brilliant Diamond this year. That came out. Think about that too. Game Freak launched 3 games this year. Not only are you dealing with 3 games coming out this year alone, you're dealing with all of these grandiose projects they're working on too. So from a dev operation perspective, they've been doing a lot.
What's the third game you're thinking of? Are you talking about Diamond?
Yeah, Diamond and Pearl.
Oh, I think that was fall last year, but I think it's within 365 days. I think you're right.
Yeah, it's definitely, you're right. It might have been fall of last year, then Legends came after that. But yeah, so they've just been doing a lot, and I'm hoping they slow down. And focus on Scarlet and Violet. But I would say for me, number 1 would probably be Gold, because I loved Ho-Oh as a kid. Because my brother's nickname was Ho-Ho, and there was a Pokemon kind of named after him. And then the first episode of the anime ever, right? Ash looks up and sees a Ho-Oh at the end of it. So I was like, what is that? I'd say Ho-Oh. I'd say Yellow. You know what? I'd say Ho-Oh. I say Gold.
You'd say Ho-Oh 4 times in 1 minute.
I'd say Gold, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald. I never played Crystal. Yellow, Blue, and Sword and Shield, and then Scarlet Violet. This would be my top. But yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm gonna probably put a ton more hours on it tonight. So the joy of surgery. You have no excuse not to.
The joy of procrastination. I have a bunch of reasons to play.
Yes. Yeah, you got a lot going on. But they're talking about third-party publishers helping out Nintendo and Bandai stepping in. There's a conversation that came up this week on news with Sakurai sure a lot of people know that name. He's the mastermind behind Smash Brothers. I don't know if you've known anything about Sakurai, but he's an interesting figure in general. His personality.
Is he the one that always did the promos for the new characters?
Yeah.
He's interesting.
Yeah. He's very interesting. He's got his own YouTube channel now. It's just all about making games. It's pretty popular. I've not watched a ton, but people enjoy it because they get to see things from perspective. And a popular game that came out on the 3DS, Kid Icarus Uprising, which if you look at like any top 10 3DS list for best games, this game is really up there. Mm. I know you mentioned you never played Kid Icarus. I've never played this game. Probably played the old school NES one on a ROM or something like that back in the day. But besides playing as a character in Smash Brothers, he just kind of casually hinted like, that game was really great. He was talking about how the difficulty mode works and how it was unique, and he just kind of says, wouldn't it be great if someone ported it? And then it was kind of like a face to the camera and then moves on. And so people were wondering, and I think I heard that there was some hiring at Bandai maybe, and people were wondering if this is related to that. Mm-hmm. Who knows? It'd be cool. I mean, I don't see why you don't port any of your best-selling games from the 3DS or Wii U to the Switch if you haven't already. It's just a matter of why not.
Yeah. Time, effort. I don't know if licensing becomes an issue at that point, but
for sure, licensing would become an issue with some games. But if it was already a Nintendo game in the first place,
yeah, yeah, time and effort.
Yeah, well, a 3DS game for sure would be more than just, let's run it, see if we can work here. There's the 2-screen factor you have to change. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting, but yeah, 10 million copies. Nintendo is going to go into this holiday season printing money, and they're going to be printing money as well from Pokemon cards I'm buying, which they now own as well.
Half of their revenues this month is going to be you trying to catch up on every Pokemon card.
No, maybe.
Oh gosh, Mark.
Maybe not everyone, but they've been making the game for a long time now because they took it off Wizards of the Coast a while ago. They bought their own animation studios a while ago too, like because they want to start making animation on their own. They want to have more control. So I think the Pokemon anime, you might start seeing that happen too. Like they
the card game have an influence on the anime.
Nintendo publishing the anime themselves.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like this movie coming out for Super Mario by what's the company? Minions. Illumination.
That's Illumination.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see another movie by Illumination unless this one's a smash hit and they already have a sequel planned. Because they're trying to invest more in creating additional channels or verticals of content related to their IPs. So, yeah, it's interesting. But what I wanted to talk about with them printing money is in relation to the Microsoft Sony news. And just so everyone knows, the merger conversation that's been happening, there's already been a handful of companies that have agreed to the merger, specifically like Saudi Arabia and Brazil. But the big players, the UK CMA has been calling an investigation. The EU got involved the other week as well. And now there's reports that the US FTC might be filing a lawsuit as well from an antitrust perspective, which doesn't mean it won't happen, but it does mean it won't happen soon if it does happen. All that aside, there have been additional conversations, and Sony basically released a 11-page argument on why they're against this from happening. And in one of their arguments, they basically make the claim continuously how Call of Duty is extremely important to them. And it is. It's a best-selling game every time it comes out for Sony PlayStation. For Sony and Xbox, it's the top-selling game. They've said that this is going to affect them to the point where people might go to Xbox over PlayStation if Xbox puts it on Game Pass. We talked about this. Microsoft can't put it on Game Pass. Microsoft said we'll give you Call of Duty for 10 years guaranteed. So there's all these things happening. But Sony said this week that, hey, Microsoft is trying to make us like Nintendo in a way that we won't be able to compete with them in the same sense. To which, what did you say when we were talking about that?
I don't remember, but now it sounds even more like an insult. Like it just sounds like it's just like two people fighting. They're like, "Don't make me look like him," and the other guy's like, "What? What? Come on!" But no, I don't remember what I said to you.
Well, you talked about Game of the Year awards.
Oh yeah, that. But yeah, now that as you were talking, yeah, I was just thinking about that. I was thinking like, yeah, There's quality, but that's pretty much what it was like I think in the past 10 years, as far as like game of the years, like actual, yeah, game of the year, whatever that means to you. If I, the past like 8 to 10 years, I think none of them are from Microsoft. They're all Nintendo for nominations. Even nominations are the Nintendo and Sony games. It's got to be like 8 out of the last 10 or something, or 6 out of the last 8. I forget which one it is. But I mean, like, you look at all the single party games that Sony's put out in the past couple of years, it's just nonstop juggernauts coming out, Spider-Man, God of War. But apparently those aren't enough that Sony's afraid of, missing out on their, I just don't understand it other than kids for an 18 plus game, how Call of Duty is consistently the highest selling game, but Sony's still afraid to lose it. Yeah. Even though they put out some of the best first-party games. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Single-player games, really. But you're talking about a lot of quality coming from a single company, and then Nintendo as well, like franchises that are deeply loved. And then you have Microsoft with like a lot of games. That's and Game Pass. Like they're doing some part of their business model right. But yeah, taking Call of Duty out of their bottom line, Sony's obviously they're afraid of it. But I was surprised about that. I didn't know Call of Duty. I mean, not before today, but I learned this year that Call of Duty and those FIFA games and Madden, all of those are like the highest selling games every single year. And I'm just like, there's so much other stuff out there, guys. But
yeah, I mean that's the general gamer demographic, right? They play Madden, they play FIFA, and they play Call of Duty. They've never heard of, a lot of these other games that maybe are just a level or two below it that might in fact be better, because they're not looking for that, right? They have so much money they're going to spend, and they spend it the way they want to spend it. So, it's interesting because I think historically, previous to this generation, Microsoft and Sony have very much been offering very similar proposals in terms of what they're trying to do with their console. They're trying to be cutting edge in terms of technology and experience, performance, and graphic fidelity. And they try to go at very similar game experiences too, right? So Call of Duty one year was, for the 360 was often exclusive content was there. And then with the PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 4, I think actually PS4, Call of Duty had the exclusive content there. So they both recognize that in some sense, they had a very similar core demographic they had to go after by wanting to lock down those marketing partnerships with a lot of money. Now, Microsoft historically has not had success in the Japanese market. Sony has. That's not really changing with this generation of Xbox. But with this generation, Microsoft is kind of saying, hey, we're not just going to be a console maker anymore. We're going to leverage all our other capital and assets and infrastructure, cloud gaming, computer gaming, all that, to basically make a large-scale ecosystem. Mm-hmm. Which is what you're seeing with Game Pass, with the different types of Xboxes, with the fact that I can play a game on my Xbox, on my PC, or on my phone, have the same save file just on the go. They are very much focused on hardware and infrastructure.
Yeah.
And this has been Microsoft's comment. It's like, hey, we're not trying to sell consoles, Sony, which Sony has to make that argument because, hey, that's what they are doing. They only sell consoles and games. Microsoft's saying we want to expand our core strategy, which is Game Pass, and also they want to get into the mobile market. That's why they want to go after Activision, because they own King, which is Candy Crush. Mm-hmm. They can get Candy Crush on a mobile market, exclusive to their mobile app market, then people will go to, right? So already Microsoft is... Go ahead.
Did Google Stadia take a side on this?
Yeah, they said, we're going to go take a nap.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's Google... Snooze. It's interesting because like Google aside, like they're successful when they buy a company and they get into it that way, but when they try to do it internally, not so successful. And I think Microsoft knows
for exactly 6 to 8 months, and then they scrap everything.
Yeah, they have a very core business, right? So with this, I mean, if you add Call of Duty aside, what excites me is all the other games that they could bring to Game Pass. Just from the fact that like there'd be less money I'd probably spend, Blizzard games, all that stuff. So yeah, it does force Microsoft to think creatively if this happens in a way where they're like, okay, we can't. I guess my perspective is that's already happening though, where I don't think Sony can compete with a Game Pass. Sony doesn't have the capital that Microsoft does to do a Game Pass, to be a loss leader with that type of service. they have the library of back games that people would love to play, but for some reason or another, we've talked about this too. They don't seem to be bringing it forward quickly. Like, oh, why can't I play all these PSP Vita games and PS2 games, PS1 games on PS Plus? It's like, why aren't you just like
they're
making
rationing their capital or whatever a little bit closer? It seems like they're not gonna put a bunch of effort forward on porting all these old games just to have it be free, or yeah.
and at the end of the day,
have the same amount of money Microsoft does.
And that's it, right? Sony makes TVs, they make cameras, they make a lot of high quality premier electronics devices, but they're not what's at the core of almost every enterprise company in the world. One company is using something Microsoft for their infrastructure, whether it's, networking or basic computing, all that stuff. Like Microsoft Office 365, that's, the type of work I'm in, like that's huge money for them. Xbox, they could sell it if they wanted to, but they're realizing they can make those two work together by leveraging everything else. And so I guess my perspective is like, whatever happens here, Sony needs to pivot in some sense. And I think you hit it on the head. Sony makes the best character action games. They make the best story games. They make the best games of what's the best in the latest graphics, the best in the latest gameplay, best in the latest storytelling. They do that. How do you expand? Probably put it on PCs. Like put your games on Steam, and they're starting to do that more too. But they do something Microsoft can't do, and they're also doing something the Switch can't. And Nintendo really doesn't want to compete it. They're just busy selling 10 million copies of Pokemon, and all that. So, yeah, I mean, it's just funny. It is like an insult to say like you're trying to make it like Nintendo.
Yeah, it just sounded so. Nintendo's like, what? You want to put out low fidelity games and make a lot of money? Go ahead. And you guys don't need to make Horizon Zero Dawn.
And that's why they make their consoles not as powerful, right? They know that they're going after something that is just fun, right? We want to be fun and innovative. We're going to make controllers that do things crazy that everyone else is going to copy.
And portability. And Nintendo has always been portable. Well, not like the Super Nintendo and stuff, but I'm saying like Game Boys, everyone had one. Every Game Boy Advances, the 3DSs, like that stuff was portable and sold more and worked than anything else so far. And now the Switch too, I don't have to lug around my PS5 to go play a game while I'm, traveling. That Switch just comes with me. So I'll always have it, I'll always need a game for it to play.
There was probably a time where Sony could have come out with a better Vita that would have been able to compete. But now with the Steam Deck, part of me says
they didn't ration any funds towards it. They didn't pay it forward. I don't know how to say it. They didn't, pay it forward and hope to get a return on it. They just didn't even gamble with it.
Yeah. Like, to me, if I'm Sony, I say, hey, we're going to make all our great first party content. We're going to be best in class for these types of experiences. You're going to have quality here. That's what they should go for. And on top of that, let's extend our reach into PC more. So what does that mean? That means maybe a PS5 game is exclusive on console for like 6 months. Then it goes to PC as soon as it can. Where we have some number inside that says this number is like how many months is it going to sell the most PS5 consoles, right? And then we put it on PC and we make sure it works great on Steam, right? Because
that's another thing. There's two games in my head. Like, how come this is a developer issue, but like PC ports or PC versions have been nightmarish, it seems. Like, I just remember when Arkham Knight came out, they had to straight up I think they held off like months to even release it on PC, or they released it on PC and they had to pull it because it was so buggy. And it's the same with Cyberpunk. I thought that it was just like on PC it was a mess, and they did all the optimization on like the PS5, like the next gen consoles. But is that a hurdle Sony? Is that a realistic hurdle? Am I right there, or is Sony not even thinking that that's worth it? Because that's a developer issue.
Yeah, so I would say maybe 5 years ago, the console to PC port was a harder challenge, but I think a lot of companies have been investing more in making that jump easier. Case in point, like Miles Morales, right here on my Steam Deck, right?
Oh, how's it working?
I've yet to play it because Pokemon came out because it came out the same day, but
It's there.
supposedly it plays great. And it plays great on PC. And
sounds like a step in the right direction.
So yeah, I think PC ports nowadays are pretty solid overall. Like Cyberpunk, like you said, actually had one of its best performances on PC if you had the high end infrastructure for it, like a nice GPU and all that. You know, it was like you could basically power through all the performance issues that people experience with Cyberpunk. So PC is kind of at a larger user base right now where they're investing in that. So I don't know. Sony's probably going to be investing in more consumer hardware over the next decade in terms of how do we bring our gaming quality to, like, I think I saw they're investing in PC monitors. They're investing in a line of PC headphones, all that stuff. So, and they have a background in audio, right? So they can make those synergies work. But
I have Sony headphones here. I've always got these same ones. Like these are just like the wired headphones for like TVs, computers, and stuff. Yeah. But I've gotten these Sony ones. It's these same exact ones since like mid 2000s, and they're awesome. They're so reliable, but they're Sony.
What was the first portable audio device you listened to music on when you were a kid?
CD player.
Was it a Sony Walkman?
Oh, I have no idea. No.
Like you've heard that term before, like a Walkman. Did you get a Walkman?
Yeah, the Walkman. Like you talking about like
that was Sony
player? Or does that thing play radio too?
I think it was cassette at first, but like Sony pioneered all that as well. Portable CD. They were always, so I do think they're going to have to think creatively about how they could bring the PlayStation brand into new ecosystems where gamers are, whether that's through audio devices or monitors, because they have a background in TVs as well, you know. But I don't know. It's already changing. Like Microsoft has already put so much money down where in the next 5 years, Sony is going to have to compete differently. Like a Nintendo, but you know, Call of Duty at the end of the day, I think is just the last grasp for them. It's kind of my perspective.
Call of Duty. It's a whole thing I don't understand other than just people. It's an age group that slowly moves, and maybe people phase out, maybe some people hang on. It's like a bell curve, but I think the tip of that bell curve is a very specific age group that is constantly refilling, and that's why it's just always the highest selling. But I was even part of that at that age group, but the monotony, so it's crazy how much it sells.
Yeah, and like that's Modern Warfare 2 just came out. It's really getting good reviews. I've heard a lot of great things from young people who play it and older people who played it. Like military veterans love this game. Folks that are in their, like, adults that have kids love this game, right? Like, and kids love the game too, even though, like you said, it's for adults, 18 and older. But hey, I mean, so it is it's an evergreen type of game in that sense, where in the West we love our gun games, and those types of games are going to have mass reach and massive. So, it's just I laugh at that. You're gonna make us like Nintendo, because Nintendo all they make is hardware, and they choose to make hardware very different than Microsoft and Nintendo. And this is probably why Pokemon Scarlet and Violet in a lot of ways isn't what everyone wants it to be. But it's gonna break records, right? It's going to be a good experience, right? Breath of the Wild.
That's gonna beat the heck out of Scarlet and Violet when that sequel releases.
I've thought about this. There's always the, like, is it gonna be as good? Is it gonna be as, like, this word of mouth for how crazy it was and different was a big factor. I'm concerned Breath of the Wild 2 could have issues that are worse than the first Breath of the Wild. But I also wonder if they're going to launch it with the new Switch. They haven't announced anything yet, but there's always the rumors that there's something on the horizon. And historically, Nintendo's launched new consoles with a Zelda game that spanned both generations. Yeah.
If it spans both generations, fine. But like, a new Zelda game's not going to make me buy a new Switch. That's not going to happen. You're not going to get your sales.
No, fair enough. Like, Twilight Princess was on both GameCube and the Wii. Yeah. Skyward Sword was on the Wii and the Wii U, right? Breath of the Wild was on the Wii U and the Switch, and it just to me it seems like a to keep up to the success of what the Switch is, Nintendo's got to leverage their IP in some way. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen or it's going to work, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone's considering that strategy. So,
how long has the Switch been? Was that a 2016 or 17?
17, so it's getting close to 6 years now.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That seems long and short at the same time to be thinking about another one coming. Mass produced, ready, after all the stuff that happened in the past couple of years. Yeah. Dude, you gifting me Pokemon Sword, I bought a Switch because you mailed that thing to me.
Forgot about that. Is that like a Christmas or birthday gift?
You mailed that to me. I was like, oh, I guess I gotta buy a Switch so I can play this with him and for him. So yeah, here we are talking about a game 3 Pokemon games later. Yeah. Probably exactly the same amount of time later, 2 or 3 years.
I only say that because NVIDIA had a big event a couple months ago where there was talks about a new system on the chip that the Switch Pro or whatever it's going to be called could be using, and then Shigeru Miyamoto came out a few weeks ago. We talked about it on the show, talking about I think last week or 2 weeks ago that porting past backwards compatibility is easier than ever before, but also we're always focused on new gaming experiences when we release a new console. So to me, that could be two things. One, of course, we're going to port these games and make them work, but also whatever you think the Switch 2 is, it might not just be like a Switch 2. It might be something also very innovative that they've been trying to do. Because again, they're not Sony or Microsoft.
Yeah.
They're different, and they have to make you want to, why? What is the unique proposition of playing on this next system besides, it's just going to be able to run all those Switch games better, right? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it has a lightsaber. That'd be cool.
A Switch, but it has 2 screens, and it flip closes, and has a dock, and can play 4K.
What if it's like those Samsung phones that fold?
Yeah.
That would be a nightmare launch, I'm sure. But it's interesting. Anyways, I think that's all for gaming news. Is there anything you read about that you wanted to talk about?
No, dude. I went complete not intentionally. I went complete blackout because of Violet's released. This is what Pokemon games do,
Yeah.
I can take it to work with me and play it on my lunch break. It's just I'm complete news blackout, and it doesn't help that we had 2 holidays mixed in with this release. So, or not 2 holidays, but 2 days off. No further news.
Well, I would say Black Friday, while it's not called a holiday, very much speaks to the things we value most in this culture, which is material wealth and consumerism and stuff.
Technically, I got holiday pay for today, so it is a holiday.
Take it, yeah. That's awesome.
Anyone who's off today, it's a holiday pay.
Yeah, yeah. No, there is something to say that in the idea of Thanksgiving, the next day, and looking back, the next day was considered still a big deal too, because you have all this food. And refrigeration wasn't as great as it was, so it's actually you got to keep eating, celebrate, guys. So I mean, for me, like I said, I think I covered the articles I wanted to talk about. One thing, and this kind of switches us into games playing. So besides Pokemon, which I'm going to keep playing, I love it. I think next week we could talk more about it. Maybe we could do a spoiler ridden moment, like a video for YouTube where we just talk about just complete spoiler cast where we talk about it completely and give our impressions and reviews.
Pokemon?
But because we're not saying a lot.
That anytime. It'll be not a short one. I didn't mean it like that, but I mean we're not gonna have news to go over. But we can do that anytime you want.
And maybe we could do something like that. But besides that, I did hear about a game this week that caught my eye.
Whoa. Hold up. Remember that, because I did finally see a trailer for Callisto Protocol, the game that should be a working title, but it is actually a thing, and the trailer was really cool. Just wanted to say that. Yeah.
Right?
And it was coming in a week or two, and I was like, wait, I thought this game was still in development. That is the working title. This is a 2023 fall release. No, yeah, if you haven't seen that trailer, a new trailer for Callisto Protocol just dropped, and that game's coming out soon. And that just reminded me, it's almost December. Crisis Core Reunion's coming out soon.
Yep.
Whew.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good
month.
Yeah,
I just remember us talking about Callisto, and I was like, where have I heard this before? This working title.
Callisto Protocol is December 2nd. Yeah, that's next week. And then, yeah, I think Crisis Core is December 12th.
12th? Yeah.
Yeah. Which that's hitting every console too. I'm really excited about that one.
Did you finish 7 remastered?
No,
Renegade, Retrograde?
Don't ask me that question.
Revamp?
Stop it. No, I really want to get to it. I got pretty far in the original game, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't know how far that actually is to finishing it. No, I haven't finished a remake yet. Part of me wonders if I should play the Crisis Protocol first or wait.
You're just you're just throwing word salads and all these games are combined.
Crisis Protocol, Crisis Core.
Final Fantasy Returnal Chronicles.
Definitive Edition.
Violet. Yeah, Red Game of the Year edition. Gosh, Final Fantasy VII remake. That game was just so beautiful and just such a good. I love that game. I loved 7 originally and all the characters in it, and I just, aside from the weird ending, I don't care. Like, they took something we love, all those characters, made them all look beautiful, and are going to do something new with it. Obviously, how the remake ended is not at all what happened in the first game, but they're going to take the characters we love on a different journey and probably rehash some of the same story points. But I am so glad that they did that game and at that generation and everything. It looked so good.
Yeah. I
think I'm excited for Crisis Core.
I am too, and the fact that they want to remaster it says something about their faithfulness to the original core canon in a way, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that, and then Midnight Suns, Marvel Midnight Suns comes out next month as well. So, which for those listening or watching, there's the competition running in the Discord, so you can win a copy of Marvel's Midnight Suns or Crisis Core for the month of December. I can post that in the bottom of the video description after we're done here. But yeah, so those games are going to be great. There's 3 games for sure that I'm looking forward to. And then January, you have the new Fire Emblems game coming out, Fire Emblems Engage, which is, you liked 3 Houses, right?
I liked 3 Houses. I liked, what is the Warriors one? Oh, I think it's called, it has a tagline now.
Yeah, it's the recent Warriors one, right?
It's not 3 Hopes or anything, is it?
I think it is 3 Hopes. I think it's 3 Hopes.
I'm going to put this back. I'm going to set this down. But yeah, that one I liked even more because I'm a huge Warriors fan. Not Golden State Warriors, even though I live here. I meant Dynasty Warriors.
Well, I mean, Steph Curry was over your house for that one party, so.
No, okay. That was a misunderstanding. I was at someone else's house and he was there.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, so that's all great. But in terms of, besides Pokemon, I stumbled upon a Twitter post this past week about this game that came out on the 21st called Evil West. I know I sent you a video for it. I don't know if you watched it.
Tell me all about it, please.
So Evil West, this game, I saw something like, I saw people talking about it. I'm like, is this some like, because I know there was some RPG that came out this past year about something
there
West.
Yeah, there you are, Evil West.
That's the face the game makes me make. But there was something this past week about West, and I was like, oh, is this that RPG game that was coming on the Switch, like Fear and Loathing or
the news again? What's going on? Oh, Evil West. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I think. Yeah, that's the same hashtag they used.
Yeah, so I saw the game after people were talking about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this game isn't what I thought it was. It looks amazing. If I would to describe it, if you took all of the quality of life improvements that character action games have learned and adopted since like the new God of War or like a Bayonetta, but I would say this plays more like a God of War in terms of it being kind of, I don't want to say slow in its combat, but like it's just you feel like it's heavy combat for sure.
Like, I see what you're saying about the God of War. Which I wouldn't expect it from a cowboy gunslinger with
This is cowboys versus vampires, but there's also werewolves and monsters, and it's got a very straightforward. So, like, if you're familiar with like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, a kind of similar idea where, like, okay, you are a cowboy, you are in the West, and you are part of a secret covert government agency that is responsible for essentially eliminating any supernatural threat. And
is this like a direct sequel to the Quentin Tarantino movie with George Clooney and those vampires in the West?
No, but there is a level from Dusk Till Dawn.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a level.
One of the levels?
Yeah, so they pay homage to a lot of stuff. Like at one point, you go to a town called. Yeah, well, yeah. There's a town you go to called Belmontville. I was like, oh, Belmont, Castlevania.
Nice.
Yeah. So,
by the way, Belmont is like, I'm in Redwood City. Belmont is like 2 blocks down. So someone said that. I saw that the other day, and I was like, oh, Belmont.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
But the game,
with Netflix.
The game is fantastic. Like the gameplay, the combat constantly keeps getting better. Like imagine if God of War mechanics and combo requirements also threw in the ability for long distance gunplay that works super smooth. Like you don't just get one gun, you get your handgun, you get your rifle, and you get your shotgun. And I'm still unlocking stuff. There's so many different mechanics and ways to flesh combos out. There's so many different ways to use the area around you to finish combos. And I'm not just saying this because I'm bad, but I feel like I'm decent at games. I've died quite a bit. Like the game is going to present you into a scenario where you feel comfortable and then all of a sudden you're dead. You're like, oh, what did I do wrong? And it's not in a way where it's like annoyingly frustrating. If you just pay attention, you're like, this is what I did wrong. I can do it better. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot of fun. I even from a story perspective, like what people were expecting with a theme like this, like, am I going to come away eternally changed? Like, it's fun. It's fun writing. The cutscenes are gorgeous. The game itself is gorgeous looking. I'm playing on my PC, 60 frames per second at 2K, and I am floating through the experience. I'm streaming high quality while I'm doing it too, and it's just a ton of fun. You know, at certain points, like the rating is very outrageous in ways, but it's not outrageous in a way where it feels like, what's the word? Oh, we're hardcore. We're just going to curse a lot. There are certain characters that curse a lot. Sometimes they say things I'm not happy about, but like it still fits for the idea of like these are people that are doing some messed up stuff in the West that are just disgruntled and gritty. And it's not overdone. It's not like everyone's just saying everything the same amount. Like the characters have personalities. Yeah. And what they also do is something I loved about the second Wolfenstein game of the new Wolfenstein games is brilliantly where like a lot of games do this where you learn about the world and there's world building via picking up objects in the levels in the hubs itself. And it's does that in a way that has me wanting to explore more. And it's interesting, right? It's not overdone. It's not oversaturated. People are critiquing the game because they say it feels very much like it's not like a game back in the day. Like, oh, I want to go over here. And there's just like an invisible wall. You can't.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're just like, oh, that's, this is like a PlayStation 2 game. I'm like, guys, this looks nothing like a PlayStation 2 game, and it plays so much better. To me, it just says, hey, the makers knew what they wanted to do. They wanted to make a crazy game that had crazy combat, and they didn't want to do it open world. They didn't want to do any of this. They wanted to just focus on that, which is a totally smart decision to make. And because of that, there's not like of the new Gears of War where I was like, oh, these levels are great, but this open world makes me want to stop playing, So it doesn't seem like it's a long game. Like each level is about 20 to 30 minutes. The boss battles are fun. There's really great character design, and there's still a ton of stuff I haven't unlocked. Like I could see myself wanting to perfect the game and trying to like 100% it or something like that. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. That's all I'll say. It's a lot better than that Cowboy vs. Aliens movie. Everything but the Switch. Like PlayStation 4 has it, I think. PlayStation 5.
Nintendo's over there in the corner. Everyone's just making fun of it. You don't get to play Evil West.
Yeah, you don't get to play this. And they're like, we don't care. We just sold 10 million copies in a game that's running like garbage. No, okay. But yeah, so yeah, that's the surprise game for me of the year, which is like, oh, God of War just came out. They spaced this out enough to where this is getting its own coverage, even though they're similar. And I can play this one, and I'm having a lot of fun. Like, like it is both heavy and fast paced. It is yeah, they're yeah. I just Evil West. If you're listening, check it out. Here on the channel, you'll see I'm live streaming on YouTube now, so like I'm going on for an hour or two each day or so, and doing a few levels, and then cleaning it up a bit, so it's a polished experience. But it's good. Like it's a game I could see you enjoy. Like for you, with everything you have going on, I would say if you see it on sale one day, like and you have nothing to do, you would pick it up in that scenario and you would love it. You'd burn through it quickly.
Yeah, it's kind of like I have Tales of Arise or Tales of Arise is another game that I was like, I understand everyone likes it. A lot of people like this game. I wanted to play this game, but I was going to wait for a sale. And I think it's on sale now, but even then I'm like, if I buy this game, like I just don't have the time for it that I want to, you know. I have to like just commit to it. And that would be the same thing with this. If I see it on sale, I'll buy it and play it when I can.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you would like this more than Tales. Tales is good from what I've played, but there's still different types of games too.
Oh yeah. I just meant like it's just a thing that I know is there that I wait patiently.
Yeah,
that I want to play someday.
It offers very much of there's exposition, there's a gorgeous cutscene, then you're in the action, right? And it goes boom, boom. It's very fast paced, but also it's not just lacking anything, right? It's not like a what's the game that's really fun that has like no story to it? I can't think of it now. But no, it works, you know. I think you'll see the game discounted here soon. Pick it up then. But it's a game I don't think you'll be disappointed by.
When did it release?
This past week, I think the 21st of November.
So yeah, it just came out. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I had no idea it was coming out. So
yeah,
it's a lot of fun. Oh. That's really it. That's all I'm doing. Like you saw Miles Morales. There's Tactics Ogre. There's so many games I have on my plate, which with work right now coming back on Monday, maybe I'll get to this weekend. But my main goal is to beat Pokemon. That's really it. What else are you playing? Just Pokemon.
Marvel Snap.
Still playing that?
Still playing it.
Is it like I'm done playing Pokemon right now, I'm gonna sit here and watch something and play it on?
No, yeah, it's kind of like anytime I'm waiting for anything, it's what I have going on my phone. It's because every single thing is just like, you know, it's just a 1 to 2 to 3 minute quick match you can do, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. Because yeah, Pokemon's been it's only been like 5 days. 4 days now. It's been a week maybe. And yeah, I beat it. I just got to catch 3 more legendaries that are very exploration heavy to even get them, and I just got to fill out the Pokédex, but I've done everything else. So I'm wrapping it up. So I don't have to take it to the Philippines now, which and play it instead of hanging out with family. But I was trying to get it all done before I go, so I'm not like missing it.
You're leaving December 10th?
Yeah, if anyone wants to steal anything from my apartment, I'm leaving 2 p.m. on December 10th, Saturday. I do have, if you ever seen Monty Python and the rabbit, I have 4 of those, and they're just as vicious, and a chinchilla that also just goes for the jugular. So if you want to steal anything, you have to wear more armor than a medieval knight.
This is the sequel to Home Alone 4, right? Home Alone 5, Victor behind.
The boy is coming with me.
Victor's going to the Philippines too.
It's my best man.
Oh, nice. Well, yeah. Hopefully we'll do one more episode before, and we'll probably.
We can do the which Pokemon from Pokemon Violet and Scarlet do we want to eat? We can do that anytime. Just ask me, hey, let's sit down for an hour and film this. But yeah, if you want to do an episode next Thursday, Friday, yeah, I'm down.
Okay. Yeah, I would say let's aim for Friday. Obviously, we'll be working later in the day. But yeah, good luck catching them all. I'm excited to see what legendaries are there. I am. Again, that's what I love so much about the DLC to Sword and Shield. It's how I could get so many legendaries without having to open different games and all that. So yeah,
you do know the DLC, like the DLC is happening. There's already designs that have already leaked and everything. You do know about those?
I haven't looked into them that much.
Do you want like an example of one of them?
Give us an example.
So like in the game, you have artwork of, they were looking at like convergent species of Pokemon. So like when you get to the end game, you'll see, depending on which game you get, a different type of like Pokemon. from the other games, but it looks different. But depending on which version, it's actually two completely different themes. But one of those sketchings in those notebooks had, for example, a Pokemon that looked like a combined version of Suicune, Entei, and Raikou. It looked like one Pokemon that had elements from all three. So, like, in a DLC, that kind of thing is going to be happening.
Dude,
but
the dogs are one of my favorite.
Yeah, see, you remember them as dogs either, but they're never called dogs. And they
What
look
are they?
like cats. I mean, they all look like felines. I mean, like, Raikou's a saber-tooth. But, like, yeah, I always heard them as dogs, too. It's one of those Mandela effects that the term dogs is never... They're called legendary beasts back then.
Yeah.
I thought they were dogs, too, but they're not. Like, they're not dogs. They're close. They look like cats.
I don't know. I'll have to,
but yeah, but yeah, there is a convergent one that I can't tell you because I don't know if it's a great ancestor of all three or a future version of all three.
A future? A converged future. Okay.
Okay. I'm not trying to spoil anything for you, but yeah, there is a whole past and future thing going on. So, you could have picked up on that from like just the designs between the different games. When you look at Professor Kuro or the other professor that's in Scarlet, I don't even know her name, but there's a theme. If you look at them too, you'll be able to tell. But so yeah,
I've heard people say that she's like caveman woman or cave woman or something like that.
Okay, so if you think that, you think of past.
Maybe, but I haven't thought anything of it so far. But now I am. Now I am. This is gonna get into spoiler territory, but I'll say I'm very excited now. So
yeah. So the future DLCs, I just mentioned one of them, but I'm just thinking if you think of other legendaries from other games and the same principle. Well, actually, in this game, you don't have to get too far into it before everyone starts saying Cyclizar, this one Pokemon that's running around that looks like it should have been the pre-Evo to the legendary. They say like, oh yeah, that Cyclizar is just like a yours looks like a future version of that. I'm sure in Scarlet they say yours looks like a past version of Cyclizar. It's the same thing.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, the DLCs I think are already lined up, ready to go.
Well, so yeah, they put some patches out. Yeah, I wonder if these will be included in the Nintendo Switch Online expansion, because a lot of the other games included DLC. Like if you have that membership, but I don't know about this. Not sure. Hey, Victor.
You can see him.
He just walked by. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you could only see. Oh, you can't see it on the stream, but like over there on that one, you can.
No, yeah, on my screen, I could see him on the TV.
Oh, okay. I like purposely framed it out on this one.
I have you cut too, so
we can't see you.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, have a wonderful evening, my friend. Have a good weekend. I am going to go do some openings, get some recordings of Pokemon I want to eat and Pokemon cards, and then play Pokemon. I am a 32-year-old. I'm 33. Gosh darn it, I'm a 33-year-old child. But at least I'm healthier now. So
you got old. You didn't have to grow up, but I still feel like you did. I mean, we could still like the games we like, but
oh no, I have no issue.
I know. With this, right? I was trying to tread lightly earlier when I was talking about Call of Duty and its demographic being primarily a very young age group, and then here I am playing 40 hours of Pokemon.
Did you see? There's a meme about that. It's like games and their intended targets and who they actually plays them, and it's like so that's so true. It's so true, especially with like just the toxicity people complain about on a Call of Duty, and you realize it's like a 10-year-old cursing you out. You're like, wow.
Oh yeah.
I'm having flashbacks to my childhood, and someone should have beat me. But that's all I'll say.
I just feel like this is happening with. I feel like this is what's happening. Like this is where can I do this? This is the bell curve for Call of Duty players.
Yeah, you're good there.
And then here's the one for Pokemon every time. I just feel like it's such a wider. I don't know. I just feel like anyone who played it here is still playing it here. It's just going to keep getting wider and wider.
That's probably behind why it's selling as much as it is too, because there's people that are 10 and 11 and 9 and 8, and also their fathers that are, so.
And Call of Duty's on like on the two biggest consoles in the most households, and the Switch has a limited number of households. I mean, it's still sold a lot, but
I think the Switch has more market penetration than any of those other consoles.
You think there's more consoles, there's more Switches in houses than the other two?
Well, if we're talking about current gen, yes, but PlayStation 4, how many copies? PS4 total sold.
Awesome. Then that's even. I'm a little surprised then. If there's 220 Switches out there, then I'm surprised there's only 10. Well,
so
holidays.
PS4 117 million total, and as of right now, the Switch is at 111. So it's gonna get there, and then
10% of Switch owners have Pokemon games, just about, depending on the people who bought the double pack and just play it for themselves.
Yeah. So
but yeah, 10%. I did that math, right? Yeah, that's
just about 10 million in 3 days, 111 million.
8 to 10% of people.
Yeah,
Wow.
so there's still a lot of growth, but that's also why, like, this is the type of game that is going to reach to an already existent market base, because people who have kids who have Switches are going to want to get this game, and also this is going to be a game that probably gets people to buy Switches too. And yeah,
season.
So, all right, well, Alex, thank you for joining me for an episode of Game Bites. Like you said, we'll be back next Friday. Time will be updated on the premiere video card once I get it posted. Everyone here, go in peace, and Alex, I will talk to you after the show, and I'm gonna yell at you. So
yeah, I did. I messed up.
No, you didn't. You're good. All right, have a good one, everyone. See you later.